GoldenEye has jank.
Yes.
GoldenEye has a lot of jank.
I played
Half-Life
GoldenEye
has
for the
jank.
first time when it came out on the Switch Online, and that was fun.
Oh,
what, GoldenEye?
wow, that was your first time?
First time playing GoldenEye.
Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name is Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Nolan.
And this is episode 370. And today, you're not going to believe it, but we have an actual guest joining us on the show. He is a YouTuber who focuses on producing long-form video game content. His most recent video is about the Half-Life 2 PS2 port, which I didn't even know was a thing. I thought it was just a PC game. We're so glad to have him here today. Would you help me welcome Trav to the show?
Welcome.
Welcome,
Hello,
Trav.
hello.
So
Happy to
glad
be
you're
here.
here. Thank you. Would you please just take a moment? You can introduce yourself a little bit further to our viewers.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head pretty well. I am a Travis man. Hold on, I'm awake, I swear. My name's Trav. I do video essays on games that I love. I like to sprinkle in a bit of what I think makes me me, in that I laugh at a lot of things. But I also like to keep it mostly informative, educational. Like to talk about how games are made, the process behind them, and even smaller things like music and how art design is used to guide players through games in ways that we don't really notice sometimes.
That's awesome. How long have you been into content creation?
Well, this time, since 2018, I've technically been doing YouTube since I was in middle school, but all that content's buried. Never seen
Long
that again.
gone.
Yeah.
We'll put the links to the old videos in the description. As we get started, Trav, would you be down for a set of rapid fire questions? We typically do this for our guests, largely unrelated questions. The goal is to not think too particularly long on any question, but to answer from the gut. First thing that comes to your mind. Are you down for the challenge?
Yeah, that sounds great. Little icebreaker, never hurt.
All right. Let's start with favorites. Favorite meal of the day?
What are you talking, like dinner, breakfast, lunch?
You like them all?
Man, I mean, I'm more of a dinner person.
Okay.
Something
Favorite
hearty.
musical genre?
Musical genre? I've been getting a lot into like prog metal.
Favorite band
poster
or
on-
artist?
Favorite band? Devin Townsend.
Favorite book?
Favorite? Oh, I don't know how to read.
I don't either.
Favorite
favorite
soft
book.
drink?
Soft drink? Oh, I love Sun-Kissed Orange.
Oh,
Favorite video game
answer.
console?
Video game console? Oh boy. I'm gonna have to go with GameCube.
correct answer.
Favorite Final Fantasy?
Oh man, I'm a basic man. I'm gonna say 7.
Dustin does too.
We accept that here. We'll move on from favorites. What's a non-gaming hobby that you have?
Non-gaming hobby. I sleep. No. Let's see. I mean, there's not a lot. I'm an artist. I draw.
There we go.
I mean, I draw video game stuff, so maybe that doesn't count. But
Crossover there.
It counts.
I mean, yeah, I've got a lot of time with digital artistry. That sounds like a way to say it.
What's a place you most want to travel?
Oh boy. I don't really know if I have a good answer there. I don't really like to travel.
What's
stressful.
I'll go to my bed.
I'm seeing a pattern.
This
here.
guy really
You wanna
likes
go to sleep,
sleeping.
Trav?
Are we interrupting something?
No, it's just I came on here. I interrupted my sleep time to be with you.
And we appreciate it. What's the last TV show you binge watched?
Better Call Saul.
Yes.
What's the main
Yes.
problem with the show Lost?
They never get found.
What ice cream flavor do you prefer?
Sorry, just looking at Nolan's reaction. That was funny.
I've seen it. It's fine.
Let's see. Sorry, what was the question? Ice cream flavor?
Ice cream flavor.
I'm basic. I like chocolate.
Same.
I actually had this question in here before hearing you talk about it this morning. What ice cream flavor do you prefer? Nope, I already asked that. I just asked that. This is what I meant.
I can do it again.
What's your ideal sleep duration? I read the question again.
8 hours.
Same. What's the best age?
Oh, period? Oh, I was waiting for
Is
more of the
that?
question. Best age? 31?
What's the worst age?
32. No.
It's a brief
I
nirvana.
don't know.
Which cyberpunk themed retro video game not only predicts the future, but is often regarded as one of the best video games of all time?
Oh, I got this one. In the bag. Cyberpunk 2077. No.
There we go. Only wrong answer you gave us. It is actually Deus Ex. So join us as we talk about our retro game of the week with Trav, Deus Ex.
Okay.
Overview.
Deus Ex, which I will certainly pronounce incorrectly at least a few times throughout this show, is a 2000 year 2000. That's a Y2K title that was released by Ironstorm and Eidos Interactive. This game is sort of I don't even know how to describe it, which tells you a lot about sort of the nature of the game. There's a lot going on here. It's set in the future, it's dystopian, and it's a first-person deep dive role-playing experience.
Or shooter.
Shoot. I mean, sort of, barely. The term that gets bandied around a lot is immersive sim. I think that's the title that the developers came up with to try and describe the sort of unique nature of the game that they were going for. And what they did for this story was put all the conspiracy theories in a hat, take them out one by one to choose which one might be a good plot point, and then just do them all.
That's not descriptive enough.
I understood everything he just said.
So I looked into it this week. It was, Warren Spector, he's the one that created this, right? Came up with this. His initial pitch was a Cyberpunk Dungeons and Dragons video game. That's what he was initially going for, and then borrowing from X-Files and some of the mysteries there and real world conspiracies, kind of just threw all that into a pot, mixed it together, and served us Deus Ex.
Yeah, I think a lot of the themes here were like kind of popular in TV at the time. Like you had mentioned X-Files, and like Matrix 2 was also one thing that was very popular, and so like the whole like sci-fi theme was hot, but like this still feels different than all those things to me. Like you get a little Half-Life feeling up front, even some Hitman vibes when I start up the game and you played a little bit, but it ends up standing out once you get into the game itself.
Yes.
Trav, you could have chosen any game that's 15 years old or older and that we haven't played, of course, and you picked this one. Why Deus Ex in particular?
So it is, I guess if I could mark any video game being a representation of, I guess, loss of innocence might not be the right term, but it was like my first like real mature-ish game that I played. That wasn't just, shooty bang bang. It made me think, and it showed me concepts that I'd never really thought about, like what the heck is taxes, just stuff like that. And it absolutely just enthralled me. And I became,
to this day, he knows not to walk into public women's restrooms.
yeah, my boss will yell at me.
This was the game that taught him that. He did not know that before.
No,
Look, I mean, I just see people on the doors. One of them's got like funny looking legs. The other one don't.
I feel like
The lessons we learn.
that's That's an interesting point I've never considered for myself, because I think for a lot of people they might say GTA was the first game that like made them like the first mature game. That's the like obvious answer, but this is a cool answer, and mine's not GTA. I'd have to think of which game. It might be BioShock, honestly. Where
Conker's
it was
Bad Fur Day.
I was not allowed to play Conker.
What a way to lose your innocence.
Kenny, are you able to capably tell us what this story is about? And if no, that's okay. Just admit that.
I mean,
I can correct him. I know this game like the back of my hand.
We have a translator, so
Yes.
Yeah, I can ramble.
yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep, you're right. You can ramble.
You're right. I can't. There's.
And then you proved
there's
it.
a theme. There's a theme that you're gonna hear from me a lot as we talk about this game.
Lack of preparation.
No. That's the when we do a podcast talking about my life as a whole.
Okay.
No. There you've got so much that it's almost overwhelming. Like I literally in my show notes was like, I'm worried we're not gonna have time, even being a fairly long form podcast, to talk about all the things I want to talk about with this game.
What's the character's
because there's
name?
so much to offer.
Let's start there.
And that's included in the story. That's a good place to start, Nolan. Okay. We play as JC Denton.
Stands for Jesus Christ.
Who is
It's not funny.
Who is not fully human because in the future that we live
Half God,
in
half
this world,
man. We know the story.
nanotechnology
Starts in Nazareth.
has become a thing. He is an
Something about 3 days later.
agent for the UN Anti-Terrorist Task Force, UNATCO. I
Close enough.
missed it there a little bit. And is now proving himself post-training. This is his first assignment, and then the world gets crazy.
Yeah, you say there's a lot, and there is, but I think the plot, like just generally speaking, is very straightforward as a setup. Like you've got this cyborg, right? Basically, is he cyborg? You've got this cyborg
See,
who
it's
is.
confusing.
You've got this cyborg who
Cyborg asterisk.
a brand new agent, and he is working to counter terrorism. And there's terrorists that have taken over the Statue of Liberty.
The Illuminati
which is great.
shows up.
Well, sure.
In Kenny's
I mean,
defense, there are a couple different
it
major.
gets insane, but it starts pretty like,
Yes.
hey, here's basic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's protected by terrorists, but also booby traps, but also machines, and no one is clear as to which team they're on.
Yep.
Like, come on. Basic.
Before we go on, I do want to get a poll from around the table. Was this your first time? I know this is not the case for Trav. Was this your first time playing this game before? What's your experience with this game before, etc.? We'll start with you, Kenny.
Yeah, true first play for me. Like literally, this one by definition, obviously is a well-known, loved game by reputation. I knew about it, not one I ever played, and so I got to go in it with completely fresh eyes this week, which was a lot of fun.
Nolan?
Same. It's on my 2023 to play list, and which was great, but also not, because I definitely didn't finish this week, and I'm playing several other games. So backlogs just suck, and I'll get back to it.
Growing?
But it's a series I've always wanted to get into because they're still making them, or I mean, there's recent ones. They're kind of still making. Okay, well, they just look really cool, and they look right up my alley. So this was my first time playing.
I had tried to play this game before, and I'll talk more about it later in the episode. But I really only got maybe a half hour in before I was like, not for me. I'm not feeling it. And I put it down. This was years ago. I don't even remember why I came to it. And maybe I came to it because, like, you know, I'm always searching for video games with the best stories, and maybe this was on some of the lists. I don't really know, but
I'm sure it's on lists.
I played it for about half hour, deleted the game, didn't turn back. And so this was a revisit this week, although somewhat of a first time because I never really got far. So definitely pushed past that 30-minute mark this time. So that's my experience. And then Trav, I know you gave your like emotional, like this was your wake-up call to taxes, but what like I think you told me previously before we started recording that you actually had played a more modern Deus Ex, and it brought you back to the original. Give us a little bit there. What's your history of this?
Yeah, I actually originally played the third game that came out in 2011. And that was sort of my gateway into the first-person RPG games. Like, previously, I think the only other one I could say that I played was Skyrim, and that didn't quite jive with me at the time. I love Skyrim now. I did not care for it back then. But I played this, and I was like, okay, this is fine. I don't quite understand, like, why... I've only ever really... Yeah, hold on, let me try that again. I've only really ever played, like, Half-Life and more traditional, like, go from point A to point B and solve puzzles and shoot things along the way. And this was totally different. And then after I finished the game, I went back and played the original. And that one just... I guess to kind of relate to your guys' points, I got stuck on the first level for days, basically. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I'm like, well, I'm shooting the guy. Why isn't he falling down? And just brute forcing it, I guess, until eventually it just kind of clicked in my head. Played through about a third of the game, I'd say. And then I started really paying attention to the story. And that's when I'm like, oh, okay, hold on. I need to start this game over. And it was that. And it turned into a game that I replayed almost like twice a year for a good while. Because I loved getting immersed into it.
Well, now you're responsible for 3 guys and a whole community of retro gamers picking it up a lot for the first time, a lot revisits this past week.
That's great to see. Yeah, I saw in your guys' Discord, I was seeing some of the people talking about playing it for the first time, and it was amusing seeing people basically say the same exact thing. It's like, the controls are weird. How do I play this? Like, yep, I was there too, buddy.
Gameplay.
Let's talk tutorials, just in general. I love a good tutorial, and I love an optional good tutorial even more. And this game, you don't want to skip the tutorial. And I'm very glad that it's in place, though. Some games skip this step, especially in a game like we've already gotten into, and it's going to be probably an ongoing theme, where the controls are very different than what you might be used to. This game's tutorial is pretty solid. It's lengthy, so like you need to go into it knowing, like, it's not going to give you a really quick, here are the controls, go play the game. It's going to kind of hold your hand a little bit, and it's pretty cohesive. I really, really like that. What'd you guys think of that tutorial?
Yeah, you said optional, and it is. You can just jump into the game. If you haven't played the tutorial, though, you're going to have a very difficult time with this game. It has enough complexity, not to be overwhelming, I don't know, maybe for some people, but enough sort of unique takes on how you go about things that you're not forced to do the tutorial, in that if you know how to play the game, you can come back and skip it. But it's pretty mandatory to be able to understand the game and successfully do it. And so it's important that they do that tutorial well.
Well, and I don't even think it's like extremely complex mechanics or systems. It really is kind of just the way they've mapped the control scheme, in my opinion. It's just a little unconventional. Some of it's familiar. You've got your bar at the bottom that shows what's equipped, and then like left click, right click, got it. But then there are like F keys at play and stuff. And if you're not used to PC gaming, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a hurdle, obviously, as you saw in Discord.
It's not even like just traditional PC gaming, because you said F keys. You're pretty much using all 12 F keys. You're using like a page up and page down, num lock, print screen.
Not a strategy game either. This is a first-person game. So.
Yeah, it's pretty old school in that vibe of like being RPG heavy. Like the whole keyboard is mapped to things that are important.
Yeah.
And I certainly give games a hard time these days for swinging the pendulum so hard and being like designed for consoles only and having really sort of light and generic interfaces and actually kind of missing that a little bit. But this was heavy enough in it that it's been years now since this is how games worked, and it's gonna feel a little foreign for a lot of people.
What do you mean you don't like interact on right click?
You
I mean,
will
that's
like
just-
it.
That's just one thing. I think even with the tutorial, the introductory level, I'm coming right back to it. I mentioned
let's
just a
do
few
it.
minutes ago. It causes many people, including myself, to put the game down before it even begins. And I don't know fully what it is. Maybe it's a conglomeration of things. Maybe it is part the keyboard and trying to figure out all the different things you can do. Maybe part of it is that it's not handholdy, and so it kind of just puts you in this black box experience for you to go figure it out how you want to. Maybe it's because everything's so dark you can't see you can't see anything in front of you. Maybe it's because I guess I'm just getting. Maybe it's because if you try to go stealth, that's not gonna work. If you try to shoot people, that's not gonna work. If you
Okay.
try to do anything, that's not gonna work.
Stealth works. Hold
No,
on.
it does not.
The only thing we know doesn't work for sure is running up on those little mech robots and trying to knife them
Yeah,
to death.
Kenny did that in his first play.
Yeah,
Tried to knife a robot.
You wouldn't.
I'm
make
I was
it.
impressed.
desperate. It didn't
Yeah.
work.
So what is it that makes that introductory level, not for everybody, I guess, but for me and many others, why is that such a hard stop for so many people?
I think it's a few things. Oh no,
That
Trav,
you're gonna
go.
let
Trav
Travis
has
do
the
it.
real
Yeah,
answer.
actually,
You
hold
know
on,
better than
wanna
I
hear-
do.
I'd love to hear Kenny's hypothesis first.
Okay.
Would you?
Go, Kenny.
I'll jump in and correct you when you're completely.
Oh,
off.
okay. That works. No, I think it's a little bit of everything. You're given this really in-depth tutorial that tells you like, hey, here's how to stealth. Here's how you can pick up something and get someone's attention with sound that only sometimes works. Here's shooting where you have to sit there and wait for the reticle to go down and just like bide your time while you sit in the shadows and maybe lean if you want to. It's a bunch of these little things where as soon as you go into that opening area, your only option is to go like turn left into the shadows and like maybe pick up a gas grenade or something and just either wait or try to move a little bit and you'll almost immediately get spotted. Doesn't matter what weapon you pick up because a lot of players, they're probably thinking something more accustomed to modern games, and so they're like, yeah, give me the tranquilizer crossbow, and so they hit a guy with it and then they start running around screaming. So
was my
Exactly what I
experience.
did.
You need the elephant one, not the
yeah,
smaller
the,
one.
the elephant. But it's a lot of things that just it almost, I don't want to say it intentionally misguides the player, but it shows them like you got to use so many of these elements in tandem with each other if you want to make it through this. Or you could just, spec all of your points into shooty bang bang and play it like that anyway.
Sure.
Which is how I ended up doing it my first time. But it's a lot of things where that intro level tries to accustom, or that's not the right word, tries to work for all play styles, and you're immediately thrown into the crossroads where you kind of need to choose on the spot, am I going to go loud, am I going to go stealthy? And I
Yep.
think that can just be a little too much for players.
Yeah,
That-
I do think they did a good job in the tutorial showing you the things you need to know, but the reality of like choosing one and going at it, they could have done a little bit more to still sort of on-ramp you onto that experience,
Yeah.
Here's a situation where you are going to have to shoot someone. Now do it. Here's a situation where the only way to get through, and I know the tutorial is that to some degree, but this game gives you so many options. And that's part of the appeal of the game, is that you've got this entire menu to choose from on how you're going to play it. But they give you that whole menu right at the very start. And I think a little bit of an appetizer on top of even the tutorial might have been nice for some people, just kind of ramp them onto the experience.
I think another thing, and y'all have kind of mentioned it or alluded to it, For a lot of role-playing games or like first-person PC titles like this, you do want to go in like, okay, yeah, for sure my build is going to be all stealth, or like my build's going to be like guns blazing. And to stick to all stealth this whole game, I think is unrealistic. I think they wanted that as an option for the player, but you are going to have to do both. I mean, there are going to be moments where it's just you're not going to be able to progress with like stealth only unless you get lucky or something. It's kind of a mix of both. And once you get past that hurdle, which again, that first stage, it really is like a playground of chaos. It's just it's just so much. But once I think you just have to get past the first stage. And Dustin, when you put it down the first time, I'm sure it was just the first stage woes that kept you there.
Yeah, sure. And I was tempted to do it again this time, but obviously we have a job to do. This game does have traditional RPG elements in that you're doing certain missions, side quests, you're leveling up your character, you're getting and spending experience to upgrade skills. All of that is kind of like base level RPG. Where was your focus in your character build? I would assume that all of our focus was swimming.
All swimming.
Oh,
so my joke.
course.
Well, I am hilarious.
Me too.
Hey, he who goes for the swimming joke first is the funniest.
There you go.
What, like who in their right mind has like computers and heavy arms and like hacking and lockpicking and picks swimming as where they're gonna drop their experience?
I know. I wonder.
I
if
can
it
think
does
of
come
maybe
into play.
one point in the whole game where swimming
it's
is
neat.
useful, and even then, not really, because you can find a rebreather that gives you like the infinite breath for a sort of set amount of time. So yeah, no, it's useless. It's a pointless perk.
I went electronics, and I did that because it seemed smart. I really didn't have a strategy behind it. Like it's not like a deep RPG where you say I have a build in mind. Maybe it is if you're a vet and you know how to approach the game and like you know what's coming later in the game. But to me, I felt kind of just like, well, I guess the electronics feels good. There's some locked doors. There's a lot of like number pads next to the doors. That's what I'm speccing.
Computer and electronics for me, same thing. I wanted to be a hacker. I wanted to go in, and I had known from experience and from what people said that if you go in hoping that it's going to be a great first-person shooting experience, you're going to be disappointed. And so although you've got, Nolan, I feel like you keep saying no when that is brought up. I
said sure.
Oh,
I definitely know it's not a first-person shooter experience.
When we played BioShock recently, some in our community thought it was frustrating because it's not the best shooter either. Although I feel like it's done pretty well there. But it's more of a.
It is better than this.
Yeah, it is better than this.
It just feels better.
One of the things you have to do here is you have to get a reticle on an enemy and wait for half an hour for it to get smaller and zoom in on them.
I don't like that.
Zone in on
to
them.
be honest.
It slows the game down. But anyways,
these guys take hacking and swimming and then are confused
when
their
swimming
shooting experience is poor.
I don't think
You
Kenny got the
options
swimming
to
joke.
upgrade your accuracy and to upgrade your gun and to upgrade your character's literal body to be better at these things. I'm not saying the shooting is like stellar or that's the right way to play. I'm just saying there's diversity of choices here, and run and gun through the game is a way you can do it.
Trav, I would imagine you played the game multiple times before. What is your preferred skill method? What you focus on?
How much time you got? No. So I usually end up going for my starting perks are computers, lockpicking, and electronics. And I usually take away, because it starts you with an extra skill for your pistol. I usually take that away to put into computers. So my character is basically useless unless I get behind a dude with a melee weapon. But I can get into the computers. Oh my gosh, my voice! I'm so sorry. I can get into the computers. I can get into any locked box, whatever. Even though I can really only think of a couple places in the first level to use that. Shut off alarms, all that. And then just sort of pray that I get the dialogue conversations right in the moments where you need to choose.
How does that work, by the way? Is that
It's just set. Answers are usually there's a one answer will, in the case of the opening, the terrorist leader at the beginning, one of the options will turn him hostile, which your base doesn't want you to do because they want him alive, and then one of them will make him surrender. That one's real basic. But then later it's like, oh yeah, you chose this one option with this character at the beginning of the game. Now halfway through the game, they're gonna either help you smuggle in items into this next area, or they're just not gonna help you and leave you to die. Stuff like that, and that you really need to just break out like the Prima strategy guides to really understand what the heck you're supposed to do.
Miss those things.
Dustin, you
You're
like
bringing-
choice like that in games, though? Like when things will come back later,
Yeah.
characters.
So,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys got to any of the boss fights. There's only like 2. The boss fights in this are wild because sometimes they'll just choose not to fight you.
That's cool.
Like because of choices you made way earlier in the game, whereas even in later games in this series, you're really only given that choice right before a boss fight. It doesn't really look into what you were doing earlier in the game.
Isn't there at least one serious fight where if you have you can figure out a kill word, and
Yes.
if you use that in the dialogue, you kill them immediately. Like they die immediately.
So I mean, I don't know if you guys plan on revisiting the game, so I don't know if I should spoil too much.
Nolan's
I
for sure. gonna
I definitely
continue.
will, but
I'll keep it vague.
Yeah, it's fine.
So there's a point in the game where big mix-up happens in the story. You start questioning, like, oh man, who am I working for? All that kind of stuff, conspiracy things. Almost said a funny swear word. So that happens. I was distracted by this truck in the background. I don't know what that was. It was cool.
Sounds like a bomber. It's at my house. I don't know what it is.
So big mix-up happens, and then you can talk to this normally just random NPC that's in your base. Doesn't usually have too much to say. Pick this one specific dialogue option, and then basically the end of the game later, you can find this guy, assuming that you chose that right option at the beginning of the game. You can find this guy later, and he'll be like, oh yeah, I know this guy's kill phrase, and then he'll give it to you. 2 or 3 hours later, you run into the guy, and assuming that you did everything right, you'll have the option to just be like, I know your kill phrase, and then he just explodes. And it's great. It's really rewarding.
I feel like in 2000, story decisions tied to characters and just player decision is kind of big. Like that, I know some games were doing that, but New Vegas
Definitely
wasn't.
not first-person games.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I mean,
and-
yeah.
We make it sound like this is just dialogue. We've seen that in some other games we've played. You have Fable-type games. You have game we played, I get, not BioShock.
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect that we played a little while ago that has lots of branching choices. But this one is even more than that. Because we're talking gameplay decisions you make. Characters that you kill, or how you kill them, or how you accomplish something.
That's what reminded me of Hitman.
Yeah, which style of play you've done may dictate whether you end up killing a character or not, or how you get there. And all of those things are going to have an effect on the story, to the point where, unless you were very literally trying, you couldn't play this game 2 times in a row and have it be the same game, even, really. It's wildly replayable, which is crazy.
That's one of the reasons this game was lauded so highly, is because player choice. Like, with almost everything, you've got options. You can hack a computer, you can plant a bomb, you can find a secret entrance, you can go in guns blazing, and it will not only be a different way that you can interact with that environment, but it will evolve the story in different ways. Like, I think even at one point, like, you can kill one of your partners, like, that is coming in, and if you kill them, then it changes what happens, not only in that next dialogue sequence, but in the later parts of the game. It's just, it gives a lot of variety and a lot of choice, particularly for 2000, a game that came out in 2000.
Yeah, and another area of choice that I really love in games like this, it almost adds a sandbox feel to the game. They give you a lot of toys to play with, even in the first stage. I mean, your inventory is just chock full of, like, I mean, you've got anything from, like, a crowbar to, what are those, like, rods called that you beat people with? But they're, yeah, a cattle prod thing. Like, it's just, and then you've obviously got some guns and a crossbow. There's options, and while some of them work much, much better than others, I still just love being able to cycle through those and kind of tackle a room differently. And again, with like sneaking through like a vent to get through a bathroom to someone's office to read a like note on their desk, and then it's like, cool, I'll have like a combination for a door, and then it does feel like you're exploring right out the gate, and I appreciate that about this game, because I think, Trev, you mentioned earlier, up until now, I mean, there are exceptions, but like we were having games that were like go from point A to point B, go through the level, you know, and these are stages. It's not open world, but they're big. Yeah. They're big levels, and I don't know. It's just like there's a lot of exploring to do, and I really love that.
Yeah, definitely. I like to see them as, what's the word? Like a terrarium, where it's just like, here's this big open space that's like, it's almost living on its own. NPCs interacting with each other, doing their own scripted things, regardless of what the player's doing. Just, it's like smacked my microphone, sorry. It's like this small living area.
Yeah.
And then the player can, disrupt it as they please.
There is, I've mentioned it already, I don't want to harp too much on this, but I felt like there was a considerable amount of jank in this game.
You don't like jank?
Well, jank's not my favorite, but I found it in almost every area. You know, I found it in the combat, and we've talked about that some with the shooting, and I think some of it's programmed in there, right? Like, I think when you shoot someone, they're not just going to come attack you. If you got a good shot, they'll run away from you screaming. It was alluded to, it was mentioned earlier. But like with stealth in particular, I love to play games stealthy, and one of the things I felt like it would have benefited from is, you know, and the game just slipped my mind, but you know when Snake is sneaking around and he's seen, then thank you. Then there is like an alert noise and the exclamation point, right? So like you know there's not any kind of indicator here, and so you don't know if you've alerted anybody. Some of that's cool, right? Because then you're like, did he see me?
Yeah.
Did you see me? Right. You know, like some of that's cool, but it would be helpful to have a little bit of that. I felt like enemy AI was weird. And this happens in multiple games around this era, but like I would be in like little talking dialogue cutscenes, and like another NPC would just slowly walk through the like in between us, and that happens, and that's funny and fine, but it just adds to like some of the jank that I just felt throughout my gaming experience.
Well, and also the enemies can clearly see in the dark, where like you're saying it's so dark. It's very dark. I mean, you have a flashlight, but it doesn't help much. They can see you from forever away in the blackest of night. So
well, they can see you, but then at the same time, sometimes they'll like turn and face you and still have to wait there like 10 seconds before they spot you.
I love those moments though.
Yeah,
it is stressful, but it's fun stressful.
Aged.
One of my favorite things about this game in this era are the face wraps that they put on these polygons. We obviously saw it earlier with GoldenEye, but
it's like they're wearing skin.
Yeah, this was not the choice in my opinion. I don't know what was better, but this wasn't it.
I don't know. The main character is Probably the worst one, honestly. I thought some of the other characters looked better.
You need him to be the best one.
You picked a terrible face then.
His
You get to choose your face.
I
No,
know,
you
but I
don't,
definitely
Kenny.
went default. Are you
You
crazy?
do not change. Did you name your guy
Butt
Doug?
cheeks?
No, you change
Doug.
it doesn't change their body face, but you get to change your little icon.
Their body face. Listen. When it's a game that is a story, don't change the name. Don't change the face.
Ask Ketchum.
Ketchum. I love that show. All right. The graphics were fine for me. Not super impressive. Anyone else? What did the graphics do for you?
Okay. Looking in the
Same.
distance and seeing the city is really cool, but
Yeah.
if that's like the big gimmick you have and that's it, and you kind of look around at the rest of the details and it just kind of looks empty, I don't know. I thought it looked pretty good actually. Like the UI's fresh, the like weapons themselves are detailed. I really do think it's just the character models that would lead someone to think that these graphics have aged poorly. Everything else, honestly, I'm on board with.
I think some of that is time too. Like, this is early Unreal Engine. Like, games don't look then like they looked now.
Sure, yeah, sure.
And so certainly I don't think the graphics aged super well. Like, there's other directions they could have taken that. But you're playing this game in 2002. I don't think you're going to be like offended or put off by the way they chose to do character models. I will say some of the choices on like, let's make the game dark, and that was intentional. They tried to do this whole shadows thing where this kind of thiefish element of like environment interactions with your stealth was supposed to be a big part of the game, and it could be if you're playing that way, but it often made the game physically hard to see things that you needed to see. I found myself turning things up a lot brighter than I'd like to normally, where it kind of feels fake, and so there were some choices made that felt like gameplay choices that ended up making the visual experience not as pleasant as I think probably later games in the series are.
Music.
Oh,
I
sorry,
Trev has
really
an
I
opinion.
love the music.
I really liked the music. There's some really good themes in there, and it all works like exceptionally well for the type of game.
And dynamic. Even though this is mostly tracked, we say
Yes.
dynamic, it's truly not completely dynamic like we get today in some games where, like seamless, but the types of tracks that are playing at the right times based on the things that you're doing are triggering. So you're getting this music that's high quality, that's like ambient and really setting the scene, and it's adapting to what's going on in the story.
Yeah.
They did a great job here.
Every area in the game had 4 different tracks composed for it for ambience, combat, heavy combat, and then I think death.
That's so smart.
Like,
So smart.
it's and in games like someone has a really good video on it. I can't remember who it was. But it was like in Mass Effect, the way that they handled it was they just
my
layered
goodness.
on more musical tracks as it got more intense, which isn't a bad way to handle it at all.
No, that's
it's
cool
still
too.
really cool. But here it's like the music just completely changes, but they're all every track for the same area is composed with that same motif and everything in mind. So it feels like it's part of the same track, and it the way that it fades in and out. Like, say, if you get into combat, but then, you come out, it doesn't go into heavy combat, just goes back into ambient. It all feels super natural. And it's a soundtrack that I still just gush about every time it's brought up. It's incredible.
I feel like it should come up more often because, I mean, you have the big hitters of the time that get tossed around as, like, best soundtrack, and, like, Halo is always one of them. But, like, this one just really helps the immersion side of things. And one of the composers is Alexander Brandon, who worked on Unreal Tournament and Jazz Jackrabbit. You remember that?
I love Jazz Jackrabbit.
Yeah, he, and also is a voice actor for Elder Scrolls. But I think that
That's quite the resume.
I know, right? But like when you put that much care into having that many tracks for a stage or for like a moment in the game, then obviously they put more emphasis on story and immersion, which some games like this, especially first-person shooters, are guilty of this. The focus was on other areas of the game, gameplay, like maybe graphics, but I always love it when music can kind of pull the player in. And yeah, I thought it was, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I thought it was clearly worked on, and it wasn't just thrown together.
But let's set the scene here.
No.
Someone has just heard us talk about how good the music is. They were on the fence. It's 2020X, and our experience with the game has convinced them, I'm going to go play this for the first time. They hop on GOG, download a copy, they're ready to go. They boot it up. There's a good chance that the game is not going to function as it was intended to. I hate that.
Yeah.
But it's a reality of playing retro games, and we often point out some of the retro games that are going to need a little bit of extra finessing just to get them to be playable on a modern system. This game's going to may run too quickly for you, may have some issues with graphics, depending, may be anything from unplayable to just kind of obnoxious. However, there are fixes out there from the community that take care of that pretty well. Props to those who have done that. Thank you for your support of old retro games. But it's worth pointing out, as we talk about how this game has aged, that this is not just a pick-up-and-play title. You are going to need to do a little bit of support to probably get it playing on a current system, if that's your goal.
Also, Kenny, it's 2020X, and people have Steam Decks, and they're like, I'll just load it up on there. Do not play this on a Steam Deck, and do not play this with a controller. It's just one of those games that is meant to be a PC game first and foremost, and you don't need to try and plug in a controller and map it. You can. It's going to feel really bad.
Ironically, oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
It is one of those games that has a dedicated community and fan base. So, like, you're going to find help out there. It's not... We have come across PC games where it's like, well, no one plays this one anymore, and
good luck. We can't either.
And we can't either, so that's not this game.
Any DOSBox game, it feels like.
Oh my goodness.
No, that's funny that you mentioned that, like, you can't play this game out of the box, which is totally true in a lot of cases. But the Steam Deck is also, like, the only way to play the sequel out of the box on modern systems, because if you're familiar with Fallout 3, that game had some really terrible optimization for PC, and the sequel was made around that same time and has the same exact issues.
Interesting.
But no, if you ever play a new PC game, I've made a habit of always checking a PC Gaming Wiki. They usually have a whole guide on how to make a game playable.
But if you are playing it on a desktop, the Steam version for me worked immediately. I didn't have to do anything.
You'll need to get some tweaks to get it working at, like, HD quality.
Sure.
But who cares?
My tactic is waiting for Kenny to figure it out and then tell me how to do it. So
there you go.
The series does continue. So Deus Ex came out in 2000, Invisible War in 2003, Human Revolution in 2011, which that's the one that was your first one, Trav, is that correct? Mm-hmm. All right. Human Revolution. And there are some Mankind Divided in 2016, but we said the series continued early on, and Trav, you kind of were like, kind of. Is it done now? Are we done? Have we gotten the last one?
It's complicated. Yeah. So the game, all of the properties from Eidos were bought out by Square Enix in 2009.
Right. Yeah.
And so Human Revolution and Mankind Divided were published by Squeenix. And those games, they were a little mixed, because some people would say, like, you missed the point of the originals. I still liked them, but they're also my first ones, so maybe I'm biased. But they're good. Gameplay wise, they're way better. Like the newest one has it has an ability that's a lot like Blink from Dishonored, where you could just sort of teleport where you're looking.
Ooh.
That's really fun to mess with. Yeah. And then you could upgrade it to, like, if you use it on a guy, it'll immediately go into a takedown. It's really fun to mess with.
Is there an even newer one than that, or no?
No, that's the newest one. 2016.
Whoa.
I already forgot.
2011.
Yeah, 2016.
But so that game was meant to be a much larger game. We know this. This was confirmed by someone who worked on the project. I can't remember. The game was basically cut in half so that they could sell the second half as its own game. And then the game didn't do well, and then they ended up shelving it. So
Sucks.
Backfired.
yeah, and then now Square ended up selling all of the Eidos IPs to another company. So now someone else has the rights. And then, hold on. It's getting kind of... I don't remember where it goes from there. I think they just wanted to sell them because they wanted to do, like, blockchain gaming. Something like that.
Oh my god.
No.
I believe it could be redeemed. I have hope. Whoever purchased
Yeah.
Eidos.
I'm hopeful.
If you do want a copy for your PC, like an original Deus Ex copy, it's only $20 used, but it is $350 new and in a package. Or
You don't.
you
know.
can just go on.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
he's got a.
Hey,
got the
It's
box.
holographic.
Oh
It
wow.
opens
Has
too.
it. Oh my goodness.
I mi-
That is
I
such a
miss those
sick thing to
days.
own.
Yeah, man.
I actually completely forgot I had that until just now.
You
that's
just turn around
that's
and grabbed it. That's sick.
really cool. You need to watch the video version of our podcast to see that. But I was gonna say you can go out and buy one of those if you're a collector, or just Steam or GOG for like $7, and you get the
Right.
full edition. By the way, GOG was kind enough to give us this game for free for us to review,
Nice.
non-biased, but
Wow.
first GOG NGP partnership of all time. You can mark that one down in history.
Final thoughts.
At the end of our episode, we'll each give our final summarized thoughts on the game, concluding with our guest's final word on Deus Ex. I'll begin by saying that Deus Ex, this time through, my second experience with the game, was better than the first. I was able to, I pressed on, pushed further. There is that initial wall that I think Garlisle said it this week, that so aggressively works against what I tend to enjoy in gaming. But I pushed through it and found there to be something that I was finding some enjoyment in. The story is not my favorite. The voice acting we didn't talk about much, but I have heard better. And they intentionally went bland with JC's voice for some reason, but man. And then you've got this Russian that is just so stereotypical, and like all these other things. But I was able, as I started upgrading, as I started building out my augmentations and all of these things, I started to find some kind of rhythm with it. I don't think it's a game that is going to be for everyone. I think some are going to bounce off hard. They're going to hit the first stage and say, nah, I don't think this game's for me. But for those that are willing to press in, go a little bit further, give it at least an hour on your first playthrough to learn the mechanics, to learn the world, and want an RPG, like traditional RPG kind of cyberpunk experience, I think there is certainly something worth enjoying here.
I'm glad to hear that from you, Dustin, because earlier in the week I just checked in with you because I don't know, I kind of predicted that you would feel that way about the first one, and I'm glad to hear that you got past that one because you were like, I'm not feeling it. But
Yeah.
given this was my first time playing it, I didn't bounce off hard. I totally get the critiques and complaints of the control scheme, the first stage, and just the overall hurdle to get into this game. And we didn't even really talk about some of the depth here, like the stats on your character and like building that out and what that looks like. Nor did we really kind of get really deep on the story. One, because I'm not super far and can't speak much to it. But I did want to highlight it here. I bet it is on people's lists as best story because not of all time, but it certainly is hooking me, and it's something that I'm very much looking forward to coming back to. It's one of those games that I feel like the vehicle of the game, the gameplay itself, suffers in some areas, but the focus, even for me, is more so on uncovering more about what's going on with these terrorists and these different conspiracy groups and stuff. And I really love the gameplay loop of just getting to a new room and looking at how many enemies are in there and what they're doing, and then doing something really stupid, like crowbarring one of them when I can, or like, it's just fun. I just am having fun with it. I have to put it down for now to pick up the 2 other games that I'm playing right now, but I'm very much looking forward to returning.
Kenny.
Yeah, this game is a lot. It doesn't surprise me that in the early 2000s it was topping a lot of people's best of lists. I do think, though, that there's some aging considerations that we have to just sort of remember that make me feel like in the 2020s today, whenever you're listening to this podcast, it may not be quite as exceptional of a game as it was in that first 5 or so years right after it released, when it was novel in some novel sort of technology and gameplay kinds of ways as well. That being said, I think this is a game that everyone should play. And again, may not stick for everybody, but I'm going to go a step farther, and even not having beaten the game yet, say that this is one of the few games I will recommend that people play more than once. It's just so... I love that your choices are meaningful and permanent, both in upgrades and in dialogue and in story. And there's so much to offer that you're not going to fully appreciate this game after just one experience, no matter how you choose to play.
I thought you were going to hate it, Kenny.
Yeah.
If you like it, there are things about it that I get why you would have thought that. I love this era of PC gaming.
That's true, too.
It's a sweet spot for me, just sort of nostalgia-wise. I had to hit some of those same hurdles you guys did, and push through. And I think there's certain types of gameplay versions of this game I would like better than others. I'm glad I didn't, on my real playthrough, run and gun like I did in the first play.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too.
All that to say, it's certainly a game worth noting and checking out, and maybe more than once.
Wow.
That's
surprise. Trav, final thoughts.
I love this game. So I think that all of you are right, though. It hasn't aged the best. You really have to commit if you want to get the most out of the game. And like Kenny said, I mean, you're not going to get all of it out of a first playthrough. I'm still finding new stuff in it, and I've played it probably into the double digits.
Wow.
It's an outstanding time that just puts a lot of things from... what's the right way to put it? The fascinating world of 90s conspiracies into a very digestible product, in my opinion, because I think all that stuff is fascinating, like Area 51, Roswell, kind of stuff, all of which just is kind of thrown into a blender, and it's like, which of these old conspiracies are true? All of them. Why not? And exploring that world that feels really well thought out. Like, yeah, I'm not going to say it's the best story ever, especially for its time. Or maybe not for its time either, is what I meant to say. But it as someone who, I found the game late. I did not play the game when it was new. But it felt like a fun little time capsule in a way that called back to a lot of things that I remember hearing a lot about in my childhood, and that kind of resonated with me a lot. So I think especially for people in my sort of age group, there's something nostalgic and special there, even if you haven't played it.
It's much more fun than doing your taxes.
That is true. Oh man, you brought it full circle.
Yeah.
All right, so we did our poll on YouTube this week, and 46% of our audience said yes, the game is worth playing today. 6% said no, go play something else, and 49% have never played it.
That sounds right.
You think that sounds
right? I
right?
would have thought more would have played it.
I thought so too.
It was a popular game.
It is a known game, but two of the three of us.
That's true.
For the first time this week.
Yeah.
True. But
and PC titles are harder to play now, so it's harder to go back and get into it.
That's true.
I can't speak for anyone really outside of my age range, but I didn't know anyone that did PC gaming growing up. I felt like I was the only one in my class that even knew what it was.
Yeah. It's definitely a luxury. We had many of our community play along with us this week, write in, give us their thoughts. Here's a few of them. Cecil said, as with any game released in 2000, there's going to be some jank. But if you can adjust, this game is a ride like no other. The depth of its mechanics, the responsiveness of your actions, and the sincerity it has to itself admitted bonkers story where every conspiracy theory is true. This is a game many industry veterans cite as a huge inspiration, if not the inspiration, and with good reason. As a historic piece alone, it's worth observing and experiencing, and past the rust, it's a stellar experience to have on its own merits.
Wow.
Jank can be
great summary.
extremely fun if you don't look at it as
GoldenEye
a
has
negative.
jank.
Yes.
GoldenEye has a
Yes.
lot of jank.
I played
Half-Life
GoldenEye
has
for the
jank.
first time when it came out on the Switch Online, and that was fun.
Oh,
What,
wow.
GoldenEye?
That was your first time?
First time playing GoldenEye.
Wow. Without the controller
I think this
or
game is
with
better
the
than
controller?
GoldenEye. So
This is
There's your-
I did not
there's
expect
your hot
Kenny.
take for the morning.
I thought Kenny was going to bounce
Oh,
hard
dude,
off
I thought
of
he
this
was going to
game.
be so mad.
You just forget that I don't particularly like GoldenEye.
I watched your first playthrough that you posted to the channel, and
Of
I was
Deus
like, "Oh,
Ex?
you're gonna hate this."
It just gets worse.
Kenny's first experience with any game is generally not the prettiest.
Oh yeah,
thing,
watch any
so-
first play. It's something.
All right. Harold said, imagine if HBO got the rights to this IP and we could follow Keanu Reeves as JC Denton
Okay.
through a story full of plot twists and shocking revelations where he finds out what it truly means to be a man or machine. 10
I'd watch it.
10 out of 10 would watch.
on
I
board.
really had to get used to playing this game, and when I finally did, I just didn't have quite as much fun as I was hoping. Things I did love about the game: diverse routing options through the levels. You get experience points for exploring. At some point, I found someone's PIN number and emptied out his account on a nearby ATM. The story really intrigues me. Overall, I'm not convinced the majority of people would be entertained by this one. Although everybody should probably know about it, perhaps the better way is through one of its sequels.
That's probably true, especially for a lot of series.
It's a good question if you haven't answered it yet, Trav. What is, in your opinion, the best Deus Ex game?
Oh, I actually think the first one is the best if you can get past the controls.
Okay.
It's not the best entry point. I would say that goes to the 2011 game, Human Revolution, just because it's much more traditional,
Just newer.
and a lot easier to digest.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you can get past the controls in the original, I think that it is better. But it's still pretty close.
Garlisle said, if there's a good game here, I sure didn't get to it. As
dang.
in, I genuinely couldn't get far into the opening area. The tutorial has all sorts of weird jank and awkward keybinds to struggle with. Then when I hit the actual game, the brightness setting literally didn't work, and as a result, I couldn't even see most of the level geometry. So I swapped to the PS2 version, even with its changes and
boy.
issues where I could at least see. Maybe that would let me get somewhere in the game. I very quickly was reminded that I absolutely hate first-person stealth mechanics, yet the violent option compounded my poor shooting skills with accuracy penalties to make them feel miserable too. Oh, and I still couldn't discern a lot of items and interactables from a distance. So, yeah, legendary this game may be, but my initial impressions of it left me little desire to push through to experience it.
Carlisle.
I can't argue with that.
I mean, that was my first experience too.
Yeah, like that. Same here. I
Yeah.
literally kept pushing on originally because it's like everyone speaks so highly of this game. I'm clearly missing something.
Surely it gets
And
better.
Yeah.
I think the main wall I ran into actually happened sooner for me. You guys didn't see it when I first played,
actual
but I
wall?
Start
played
screen.
through the tutorial at the same time.
Yeah.
It took me so long to just get through the one little stealth hallway in the tutorial.
Oh, same.
Like,
yeah.
I had to do it like 7 times.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I almost quit then.
In the tutorial.
But once I did figure out and embrace some of the jankiness of the stealth and like only use it kind of when situations called for it, it was actually a lot more bearable.
You know how there's a Skyrim mod that cuts out the whole beginning sequence so you can kind of just get straight into the game? I wish there was a mod for this that would reconfigure some of the intro stuff, because like it does get better, but you have to push through the initial.
Here's the YouTube
initial
title
slog.
for the video.
Oh.
Deus Ex, real gamers only.
Okay.
I thought you were gonna say it gets better.
That's a good one too. I promise it gets
Finally,
better.
wanted to end on a good note. Bro Jim said, this game deserves some praise for the sole reason that when I died or failed, I actually didn't care, because I was able to try again and look for yet another route or approach to the situation. I can't think of many games that reward you so handsomely for exploring with experience, gear, and alternate routes. The skills also feel relevant. One situation had me using my super strength AUG to move some crates so I could sneak in a back way. Another route used my hacking skills to disable cameras and open doors, not to mention stolen ATM money. Lockpicking and bypassing likewise got me all kinds of neat secrets. People see the first person view and think shooter, but I think the devs really went for something more. Give this one a try. It really is one of the more unique ones represented in the period and makes me want to give System Shock 2 another play in GP.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That explains my feeling very well. The exploration to me is the reward of the game, not even building your character up. It's just another route that opens up. I love that.
For now, we are putting Deus Ex aside, and we're going to randomly select from our Retro Master list what game we'll be playing for the next 7 days. Before we do, Trav, is there a game 15 years old or older, any genre, any console, that you think we should make sure is on our Retro Master list so that we play it someday?
It probably is.
Oh goodness, any Mega Man or Metroid game?
I haven't
got-
heard of those.
Oh well,
We've got
No,
plenty of both on there.
Yeah, in fact, I actually this morning I was watching your Metroid Fusion video.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Which that's so good, and you got Metroid Fusion for Easter from Jesus, so that's
true.
also amazing.
I did. Thank you, Jesus.
Easter.
But we played that on the podcast. We played
Yeah.
Metroid and Super Metroid. Goodness, we played Mega Man 2, 3, 5. We played a
X.
good amount of these, but
Yeah.
great games. Well, let's see if we get one of those or if we get garbage. Randomizing now. We are going back in time from the year 2000 to the year 1999. So it's not very far.
One year back.
Yes.
Wow.
And we are playing a game. I can't really say much. I feel like it will give it away. It was published by Konami
Great.
Okay.
Good start.
for the PlayStation.
Great start.
Good.
Developed by Team Silent.
Oh my god. I know what
And
it is.
the first installment in a very notable video game series. It is called Silent Hill.
We need to stop pulling
Man.
games that are on. Wait, I don't know why Kenny's upset. I'm upset because it's on my
He
to
doesn't
play
like
list.
spooky games.
Is this not just
yeah.
Resident Evil?
Oh, that is why Kenny's
don't-
upset. He doesn't like spooky.
Yeah, I don't want to go through this.
This one's
Tell
really messed up, Kenny. You're not
Nolan,
gonna.
tell me one difference between Silent Hill and Resident Evil. You can't?
one
There's a dog.
difference.
Oh, there's a dog? What? And which one?
difference.
Find out next week on see, here's the thing. I wish Nolan was doing the first play for Deus Ex, and I wish Kenny was doing the first play for
I
Silent
know, you
Hill,
wanna
but
swap?
those are
No.
going to be reversed.
No one wants to see that.
All right. Well, find a copy of Silent Hill, the video game, and play it along with us this next week.
Join us in Discord. We have a thriving community. We've mentioned it many times. Trav is in there too.
Oh.
You might have your commentary read on the episode if you go to that channel. Let us know your thoughts on Silent Hill, or just hang out in one of the many other channels. We'll see you there. Go to go to New Game. Go to discord.gg/newgameplus.
There we go.
I do this all the
Or
time.
take it a step
Handled it well.
further and don't just hang out with us, but support us on Patreon. You will be joining a large and illustrious group of supporters who give us their vote of confidence on an ongoing basis to keep bringing you interesting retro gaming content on a consistent basis. Like our director level supporters who go way above and beyond in supporting us in really, really cool ways. Bro Jim, Daniel, I can't speak today, DH Bowser, Garlisle, and Super Hypered. We've got a large list of producer level supporters. And we're going to get through this without coughing, including the following people. Adam, Alex, Marlene, Anthony, Ben, Big Dude, Brunt, Ellis, Francesca, Gimbin, J. Robert, Jared, Joey, Jordan, Justin, Clid, Nicknack, Corey, Lawai, Levi, Mal, Maximum, Mr. Lattes, Pedro, Sajin, Shauna, Subsonic Demon, Tazelhoff, Thomas, Unbelievable, and Zion. Made it. Want to say welcome to Espresso Jet and Dano Bass. Dano Bass?
Base.
Not sure which one that is. Welcome to your patronage. We love you.
Welcome to your patronage.
Welcome to your patronage.
Trav, where can our listeners find you online?
Oh boy, you could find me on youtube.com/thattravguy. Well, oh wait, they're doing that like at thing now, so I think it's at that Trav Guy. That's really the main place I post. You can find me on Twitter at the other Trav Guy because that Trav Guy was taken.
Imposter.
And I mean that's really it. I don't really do Twitch anymore. But yeah, that's where you could find me. But hey, I think if you're listening to this and you came here for me, you should subscribe to New Game Plus.
Oh,
Wow,
you're so
there it
kind.
is.
You can
No, seriously.
find.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Is that what you were gonna say? And
Yes.
subscribe to Trav Guy. Seriously,
That's what I was going to
content
say.
is supreme. I've been into long form content
Same.
lately.
Same.
Like I think maybe I didn't say it on air, but I said it in our Discord. I watched the other day. What was it? An 8-hour Mega Man story.
Lore
like
breakdown?
Oh yeah, I know
lore
that video you're
breakdown.
talking about. Yeah.
It's so good. Now,
I mean,
I don't
it's a-
think you
I
have
get-
any 8-hour videos. They're
Not
more
yet.
like what, 30-minute, 45-minute.
Some
but
My longest one is Metroid Prime, which was like 2 hours.
Yeah.
oh, well, I
And
know
it's
what I'm doing
like
this afternoon.
it's really well put together. It's not over edited.
Wow.
I love the long form stuff. So yeah, give Trev a sub.
I'm
If you,
flattered.
if you
You
enjoyed
know.
our
Oh, sorry. I'll let you finish, Kenny.
No, you're good. If you enjoyed our conversation about this game, Deus Ex, he's got a video on that as well. Also really top quality. So yeah, whatever variation, go check it out.
Thank you so much.
You
I
can
forgot
find
what I was
us.
gonna say.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we pee our pants to Silent Hill. We're doing that live on the episode. Until then, I'm still JC Denton.
I am preemptively terrified.
I'm your mama.
And
I'm tired.
it's that tired Trav guy. And this has been New Game Plus.